All right, we're live. Just let it fill up a little bit. Um, oh, these guys were early, that's why. Andrew, yeah, Andrew said NPC on the thumbnail is jokes. But these are like 20 to 2 o'clock. JD says, wait, JD, first and foremost, you're still here. I just noticed you sent a message now. Just gonna send this link far and wide. See if we can get some people in the building. So bear with me, folks. Oh, mute that before I get copyright claim. All right, bear with me, fellas. I'm just going to mute myself just while I send this link out. I'll be a few seconds and then I'll be back in the room. All right, off mute, back in the room. Got a few people in, so let's get started with this. Andrew said that he liked the thumbnail. Yeah, I have fun making these thumbnails. JD, I think they're funny as well. Yeah, you know, because you can probably tell that I'm someone who I like to put a decent amount of effort into my thumbnail to make up for the lack of quality in the video content itself. But no, I like to have fun, and particularly when I'm trying to wind up boxing NPCs, because boy oh boy, they're really something. But yeah, let's get into this. JD says, yeah, I'm not sure if it was a low blow or not. What I do know is Usyk looked to the ref for help multiple times to intervene because of low blows, borderline low blows. Just get on with it and fight. Yeah, JD, that's a good point, and I'm glad you raised that because it's something I wanted to touch on. Because I want to say my take, my post-fight video received a mixed reception. I'd say definitely the majority of people agree with the points I made. I'm not someone who takes sides. I just say it how I see it, and most people seem to agree. Um, I do think it was a low blow. I think, you know, specifically isolating that event in the fifth round where Usyk was quote unquote knocked down by a punch. I think in my head, from based on what I see, it was quite clearly a low blow. And I preface that by saying just because it's a low blow doesn't necessarily mean it's Daniel Dubois' attempt to cheat. Although, just as an outsider looking in, I feel like it was a willful um, recklessness from Dubois, whereby he was um, deliberately reckless, for lack of a better term, whereby he was going to throw that shot, and in his mind, he's like, it lands where it lands. If it's low, I'm not going to pull my punches. However, if we look at the actual impact of the punch, from what I could see in the slow mo, because I watched the fight once, but I watched the slow mo of that punch several times, I didn't see any part of Dubois' glove land on Alexander Usyk's skin. And now that in itself doesn't, it doesn't put the whole debate to rest, because the vast majority of Dubois' glove lands on the waistband. And then I want to say about the the other third, the other third of Dubois' glove is below the waistband. And now the waistband in itself is not a qualifier necessarily uh, as to whether a punch is legal or not. It's relative to how high the trunks are. I said this in my post-fight video, and I just want to reiterate it and try and be even more categorical and clear. Because often in the beginning of a fight, you'll see the referee make a statement or comment based on what is a legal target and what's not. I don't recall that being the case for this fight. I don't remember the referee doing that. However, if we look at the way Usyk's trunks are positioned, the top line of the waistband was level with his navel, like just the way they sat. And therefore, that's not particularly high by boxing standards. So anything that hits the waistband or below is probably going to be, well, let's say the waistband is probably going to be below the navel. And that's a very sensitive area. That's, you're looking at your kind of bladder being in that area. And I don't know how many of you guys in the chat now have taken a punch to the bladder, but it's not a pleasant experience. It's very painful. And it's not like, it takes the wind out of you. It's not like that because it's so far away from your lungs. It's more of a debilitating kind of impact on a very soft area. It's very sensitive, and I'm not going to compare it to being kicked in the nuts because it's not even like that. But it's like it'll fold you over, almost like a kind of stitch sensation, at least in my experience. And I know there's this element of Usyk obviously milking it and playing up to the crowd. Yeah, I can understand. He certainly made use of a good chunk of the time because he was permitted, or fighters are permitted, 5 minutes to recover off the back of a low blow. I've seen the figure saying that he was down for like 3 minutes and 45 seconds. It did seem to be something like that. I haven't taken a stopwatch out and timed it, but he made use of a lot of the time. However, let's look at brass tacks here. He's in against a massive mountain of a man, a hulking heavyweight in front of him in Daniel Dubois, who punches hard and punches with a lot of force. If you take that in a sensitive area like your bladder, you're probably going to feel it. And I think that was where a lot of the distress came from Alexander Usyk. So in my head, based on what I see, it's clearly a low blow. And therefore, the course of action that was carried out by the referee and the call he made was perfectly fine. Although, playing devil's advocate and considering all of it, I personally felt like there were times where Usyk did take a legitimate body shot, one that was perfectly legal. And yeah, his reaction probably wasn't what you'd like to see. There was a lot of him looking over to the ref. And that is, I guess that's not a good sign. And I think a lot of people have touched on this, like Usyk is vulnerable to the body. I think that's clear now. He got dropped by Beterbiev with a body shot in the amateurs. I think when was that, like 2010 or something. And Joshua, when he attempted to land some shots to the body, he did seem to cause Usyk a lot of distress. So yeah, definitely, I think it's clear Usyk does have a vulnerability. And even though that punch in the fifth round was low, yeah, there were some perfectly legitimate body punches that Daniel Dubois landed, and to his credit, he landed them. And Dubois and Usyk, yeah, clearly felt uncomfortable. And I've noticed that there are a few fighters that do that. You know, it's always fighters are always looking to get every advantage they can. But Alexander Usyk's close friend and countryman Vasily Lomachenko, he's got that similar disposition whereby if you foul him, he will make it known to the referee. But I do understand, JD, your point about, just get on and fight. Like, it is a fight. However, sometimes fighters feel like they are like their opponent's being cheated, and that can be quite frustrating because it's a sad state of affairs whereby, in the lead up to fights like this one, fighters are giving interviews saying, "Oh, if I have to headbutt him, if I have to elbow him, if I have to hit him low, I'll do it." And I get it. It's like it doesn't necessarily mean they're going to go and do it, but it's kind of represents their intention and how badly they want to win. I get that. I understand the psychology behind it, but in other sports, would you accept people talking about breaking the rules? You know, like, oh, in football, yeah, when I get on the pitch with this guy, I'm going to go for a 2-foot tackle and try and break his leg. Obviously, that's a bit extreme, but I'm trying to make a point here. Excuse me, I'm about to sneeze. But it's the same kind of thing, and that's what Dubois did. I'm going to sneeze again. All right. Yeah, Dubois did interviews in the lead up saying how, yeah, I'm gonna do what I have to win, elbows and headbutts and stuff, and that's not going to help your case should anything controversial happen in the fight. So yeah, it's quite clear in my eyes, but obviously dealing with the fallout and the outrage, some people, man, there's um, uh, frustrating. All right, I guess you could look at the ref if you got punched in the junk, but you can't just drop your guard. Yeah, exactly. Like, of course, protect yourself at all times. Definitely understand that. But yeah, it's I can't argue with the point you're making. You fight on until the ref says something. So yeah, definitely. Um, fighters sometimes, yeah, they can be shaken up. Even experienced fighters like uh, Alexander Usyk, when he first touched down after that low blow, he was. It looked like the fight might have been over then. Like he was maybe going to say something to his corner about, "Oh, I can't carry on," because you kind of wondered, a fighter the size of Dubois, these big heavyweights, they can do you some damage. They can punch a joint out of place. They can give you a dead leg, and that's it. You're out of commission for the rest of the fight. So it looked like the fight was going to end there, but Usyk regrouped, came back very mean as well. You could tell that he was annoyed by that, and he wanted to teach the younger man a lesson, and that's exactly what he did. Got bricked up. Says it was low. Yeah, I agree. Simple as that. Philip says that really bricked up. I don't know. It might be. Ask him. Uh, all right. I feel like seeing some messages here about uh, my mic. I'm just going to put it on mute, and I want to listen to it for myself to see what it sounds like. So just bear Okay. Yeah, I had a listen. Is it better now? If someone can drop me a message, because I listened to the playback of the stream, and yeah, it didn't sound great. But what I've done is I've changed the setting, and I feel like it should be a bit better now. Okay. Might just have to carry on with this. I'm not sure what's going on. If it's really bad, I might just cut this short and have to get another mic, because this thing has been giving me problems for a while now. But yeah, I was messing around with some settings. I just tried to initially, before I started the stream, I took the yeah, talking into a potato. Okay. Yeah, we'll carry on. Seems like it might be all right now. Philip's talking about yeah, that was crazy. I saw Joe Stunner did a video on it, and he called Kosobutsky a low blow enthusiast. Yeah, that was really like 4 rounds in, and the guy just looked all over the shop. He was just really, I think he's bugged out, and he I didn't see the entirety of the fight. I was just kind of skipping through, so I wanted to see where it ended. So I saw it only went 4 rounds. I was like, damn, is that it? But yeah, he blatant low blow. I think two. I saw at least two, and he didn't even care. Like, it wasn't like he tried to sneak them in, and then he tried to act all innocent as, oh, what are you doing, ref? He wanted out. You could see just by his demeanor and expression on his face. Yeah, JD talking about the Kosobutsky nut shots as well. Really strange stuff. I just think the pressure got to him, because Kosobutsky, he looks like a decent fighter. He's fought some names like some heavyweight should be aware of, but he's had it all his own way. He hasn't had a competitive fight, and this was the first time, and it's a bit of a step up. F.A. Jagba's nothing special, but can be a big, imposing guy. He's got a serious punch, and I think, yeah, I think Kosobutsky is checked out mentally, and didn't Mike Tyson try to find a way up? Mr. Relaxes, do you think refs should say on touching gloves belt line is okay, or above belt, like some refs do before a fight, same as a no punch? Yeah, I think it should be part of the ritual, because then you can see on camera what the referee determines to be legal, borderline, and illegal. So I definitely think so. And usually that's the case. I don't feel like it was done last night. I'd have to watch it back, but I don't remember the referee doing that at the beginning. However, I don't think it's essential in this case and many others, because sometimes you can just use the eye test and you can see whether a fighter has high trunks or trunks in a regular place, and you can use your discernment from there. But yeah, I'd say, why not? It doesn't cost anything, and you see it on camera. JD says, I was thinking to myself recently what Usyk's vulnerabilities are, but now I know. I can't think of any more though. No, Usyk, he's a good fighter. He's a very good fighter. He's very well rounded, but he's certainly not invincible. I think generally to the body he is vulnerable, and most fighters are. Like, the body it's a different kind of pain. Like, headshots, a lot of the time they don't hurt, but they disorientate you. Your head's getting knocked around. Don't get me wrong. Like, if you get hit on the nose, that is painful, and that'll make your eyes water. but getting hit on the chin doesn't really hurt. Next day it does, but in the moment it doesn't really hurt. Body shots though, they can hurt a lot sooner, particularly lower body shots. If you get hit in the bladder, boy, that hurts instantly. Solar plexus, the same thing. Floating rib, same thing. But anyway, yeah, Usyk, he has, I want to say, some technical limitations, which is crazy because you do associate him with being a technician. But he's not the biggest puncher, and I think a lot of that comes down to his technique. He still has this habit of coming close and looking to pivot out of the side, and he did that in the first Joshua fight. And I remember in the lead up to that fight, I highlighted that could potentially be somewhere Joshua capitalizes, because Usyk can kind of be out of position for a split second as he kind of pivots. He plants his front leg and he pivots around it to get an angle. And I don't think it's something that he necessarily wants to do, but sometimes he is forced to do it. Like, it's his only option. It's either that or hold on, but then you're going to have a big guy trying to wrestle with you. He didn't do it so much against Dubois, but I still feel like Dubois caught him sometimes, or at least roughed him up. When it comes to headshots, though, if we want to talk about punch resistance, Usyk's very good. He's taken flush shots from Joshua, some decent shots from Chisora and Dubois, but and his chin is good. It's very solid, particularly when you consider that he's coming up from cruiserweight. But it's more so his poker face. Like, when Usyk is hurt, he is able to kind of play it off fairly well. And even if you can tell that he's hurt, he's quite slippery. So it's definitely hard to pin down. But it's people saying, "Oh, it's not you just got to close him down. Just close him down and get to him." It's not that simple, because he makes you think. Usyk, he's got so many moving parts. His head moves, his hands move, his feet move, and you have to keep track of that. And these big heavyweights, they just don't have the coordination. They don't have the work rate to do that a lot of the time. Although Dubois, I want to say that his work rate was actually pretty good. Clearly very well prepared for the fight. But I think what let Dubois down, yes, was his technique, because he's quite basic, but just his mind. Like, Dubois is a very strange character. He really has the mind of a child, I don't mean to say that in any kind of insulting way, but you don't look at Dubois' character, his demeanor, and think, "Oh, this guy's really mature." He just has like this very childlike demeanor about him, and I think that's what's costing him more than anything. Because I think that Dubois could have got up. I think he was more than capable of getting up, but he just mentally checked out the fight, and that's prior form, really. Even in the Lorena fight, which I think he deserves credit for coming back in and win big. When he got knocked down, it looked as if he was maybe planning his exit strategy. Amnon says, Usyk has an Achilles bladder. Boxing fans think the bladder is a legitimate target. I did not realise this. Yeah. Well, in my knowledge, and my experience, it's not a valid target. It's not a legitimate target. It's low. It's below the navel. Definitely Usyk didn't like that shot. But as someone who's taken a fair few bladder punches in my time, and thankfully not from someone the size of Daniel Dubois, I can guarantee you they're not nice. Not nice at all. Philip says, so Dubois did better than AJ then. I'd say if you want to look at over the course of 9 rounds, yeah, you could probably say that. Although AJ didn't get stopped by Usyk, even though in the first fight it looked like he might get stopped on quite a few occasions. And the second fight, I think it was round 10, AJ looked like he might get taken out there. Because I gave credit to Dubois for his performance last night. But I still don't think he carried out his game plan, quote unquote, the way he wanted. I think his team had it in mind to press forward a bit more. I think they wanted to do more pushing forward. But I think when Dubois got in the ring, he realized, oh damn, like it's not that easy. This guy, he can hit me. And didn't you realize how Usyk was able to rock Dubois even when Dubois was relatively fresh? So I think Usyk, especially with the left hand, maybe a bit more power than people give him credit for, because he's hurt pretty much all the fighters at heavyweight that he's been in with. You know, he stopped Chaz Witherspoon, he buzzed Derek Chisora, hurt AJ numerous times, and now stopped Daniel Dubois. But then also Dubois' punch resistance, I don't think is the greatest. And yeah, his mentality, he just doesn't seem to. If you can get to Dubois with a certain number of shots, I feel like you can start to overwhelm him. Like that knockdown, I don't think any of the punches landed clean. The knockdown in the 8th round, I think it was, but Dubois was being overwhelmed because he's got hit with a bunch of shots in succession. And yeah, I think it's, give or take, whether depends on who did better. Because I think Dubois, I don't know actually. I'm going to say it's about even. I think, there's give or take there. We got Joe Stunner in the building. How you doing, my friend? I hope you're doing well. On first viewing, I thought the punch was legit. Having looked back at it and given it more thought, I'm leaning towards it being illegal. The referee doesn't have the luxury of time. Yeah, it's a difficult call because you're a referee. You're having to judge it in real time, in the flesh. Maybe you don't have the best angle that we do have at home, which I think really does lend itself to encouraging more video analysis at the fight itself. A greater emphasis on that. But Joe, I got up in my hands up. I didn't get a chance to watch your video because I was doing the thumbnail for this live stream. So I didn't catch your impression of it, but I'm pretty sure you saw mine. And I can't see how it's a legal shot. There are some people who are just coming straight out the bat and saying, "Oh no, Daniel Dubois should be heavyweight champion right now. That was clearly a valid body shot." There's one donor, one idiot who he's commented on a couple of my videos now, and he's such a bot, like such an NPC. And he tried to say, and I think I've seen a couple of people say this as well, that the bottom of Usyk's waistband was in line with his navel. That's not even close. Like, you actually have to be blind to say that and believe it. You can clearly see throughout the entirety of the fight that the top of Usyk's waistband is what's level with his navel. His trunks at no point ever come up that high. And so relative to where the waistband is, what's in line with the waistband, what's below it, that's where Daniel Dubois landed. It was like almost 50-50. Half of the glove on the waistband, half under the waistband. And then if you see, okay, the waistband, the top of it's level with the navel, that's a low shot. Like, it's simple to see in my eyes. I don't know why there's this uproar, and I'm trying to understand the reasons why. I think a lot of it is just, after a while, people want to see the top dog, or who they perceive to be the top dog, get taken down a peg. It's this weird mentality that people have whereby they can't just accept things as they unfold. There always has to be some kind of controversy, particularly when they're dealing with someone who is the best, at the top of their game. People love an underdog story and that kind of thing. But that's just my take on it. Vladimir Laurent says that it's true, getting hit on the nose or the eye sucks. The body just hurts. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Getting hit on the eye hurts as well. Like throbbing in the eye. Not pleasant. Philip asks about Nassim Hamed's son, co-main event on his debut. That was what you'd expect. It was the son of a famous boxing legend being fed a pie in a very fortunate place on a fairly big undercard. You know, I was actually quite shocked. I don't know the ins and outs, but I heard that Nassim Hamed's son didn't actually have an amateur career as well, or had like a very little amateur career, and it's basically just kind of jumped into becoming a professional. So in reality, I don't think he's done anything to warrant, such a high position. Basically, chief support on this card in front of what 50,000 fans. Yeah, and Conor Benn enjoyed a similar luxury as well. I think he was pretty close to the top of the bill when Joshua won his title against Charles Martin. And once again, Conor Benn, I think he had like 20 something amateur fights, but really was just carrying that name. And I find it ironic personally because people were talking a lot of rubbish about Chris Eubank Jr. And don't get me wrong, Eubank Jr. deserves a fair bit of criticism for things he's done over the course of his career. But I don't think people realise that the beginning of Eubank Jr.'s career, he was fighting in Blue Water Shopping Mall. A shopping mall. That's where Eubank Jr. was having his early fights, even though he's the son of a legend. And he had to go a much longer route going from there, fighting on Channel 5, then a couple of fights on Box Nation, basically worked his way into a position fighting Billy Joe Saunders and then went from there. Whereas the likes of Conor Benn, Campbell Hatton, Nassim Hamed's son, I think his name's Adam, I'm not sure. Just straight onto these big pay-per-view cards, which is head scratcher in my opinion. People talk about AJ not having heart, but I think he'll always get up if he can. And he looked like he wanted out of Ruiz 1, but never said ref, I'm done. Yeah, that's been a point of contention for years now since it happened. 4 years, crazy to think. The way people were definitively saying, "Oh, AJ quit in that fight," I don't get it because he got knocked down on several occasions and got back up. He backed up to the corner. Said referee asked him if he wanted to continue. AJ said, "Yeah." Referee stopped for a second and then waved it off. I always thought it was a little bit harsh to say, "Oh, AJ quit." Like maybe in his mind he did, but his actions didn't reflect that. Maybe, excuse me, referee didn't like his body language. I guess you could look into that, but yeah, AJ, to his credit, he's never quit, and that's the thing. It's like with your mentality and your intention, but the actions, it's ultimately the actions that determine what happens in reality. And Dubois, I was, how am I going to put this? I'm quite lenient on people who quit, fighters who quit, because they're just human beings. Yeah, they fight for a living, but they're just people. They have their limits like everyone else. I'm not one of these people, "Oh, this guy's a bum, he quit." It happens. And we just have to call a spade when a fighter does quit. And sometimes a fighter might have the intention of quitting, they want to quit, but they persevere anyway. And it's a strange dynamic because boxing's one of those sports where if you have doubt and you want out, you want to call it a night, it can be very difficult to persevere, trust me. But ultimately, if you try and soldier on anyway and stay on your feet, that goes a long way. And I think that means something because your actions are overriding your desire to basically call an end to the punishment. But that's I guess more of a moral argument maybe. But I'm one of these people, as I say, I'm fairly lenient when fighters quit, given the circumstances, of course. Like Kell Brook quit against Errol Spence. I don't have an issue with it because he could have gone blind. Dubois quit against Joe Joyce. Don't have a problem. He could have gone blind. It happens. Like sometimes people are put in a position where they value something more than another thing, and they make a choice. Like do your thing. But then you get other guys who, like Nassim Hamed's son, his opponent. I think that was probably the first time he put on a pair of boxing gloves because that guy was complete pie and resigned himself to defeat after taking very little offense. To be expected, though. AJ won some rounds and didn't get stopped, so AJ did much better. His low blows were not as devastating now. Yeah, AJ's got to work on that low blow game if he hopes to get back to the top. But I think I didn't keep a scorecard. Oh, bear with me, folks. Just got to plug in the laptop. Sorry about that, guys. Really should have plugged my laptop in before. But yeah, I didn't keep a scorecard, so I can't say how many rounds I gave to Dubois, but he definitely did some good work in there. Definitely. Like, I'm not going to take that away from him. Um, there were times where I was like, damn, he looks dangerous. And he looked like he was unsettling Alexander Usyk at points. Ultimately, it wasn't enough. But yeah, who did better? AJ lasted more rounds, but whereas Dubois got stopped. But I don't know. I don't know personally. I think AJ got hurt more than Dubois did in terms of like visibly rocked, even though Dubois got knocked down. I feel like uh, Alexander Usyk's primary offense came from the jab in this fight, whereas against AJ, I felt like he was able to land a few more shots. You know, he was a bit more creative with the left hand, got in some right hooks. In the second fight, he actually caught a few lovely left uppercuts as well on AJ. So, as I say, give and take. Thoughts on Hellenius popping dirty? I don't really know what to make of it. I tend to think Hatman did a video on it yesterday, and he made a very good point about, there are people looking into, okay, these are like three somewhat major fighters in White, Baumgardner, and Hellenius all testing positive under the Matchroom banner. And then there's the argument of, is it weaponized testing? Is it just more frequent testing on behalf of Matchroom? And Hatman basically said, well, if you look at Hellenius's case, he fought the week prior to fighting AJ. So fights at that kind of low level, which Hellenius was in, if he's on something, he's probably not going to get tested. And he probably just thought, look, you know what, I'm getting this call to fight AJ. I've knowingly been on such and such a substance. I'm just going to like go through with it. And if I get caught, I get caught because I don't really have any intentions of winning the fight anyway. Just reading between the lines as an outsider looking in. But yeah, it's difficult to say because much like Dylan White's, or the last time I checked, Dylan White's situation, it's an adverse analytical finding. It's like, does that mean test has failed? Or is it just a question mark? And if so, what was the finding? What is the compound? Because there are so many different things that can be flagged up on a drugs test that it's not as simple as, adverse analytical finding, this person's juicing or whatever. I don't know. But you also ask, how does 40-year-old Helenius do against Dubois? I think Dubois probably flatten him. I think Dubois, if Dubois had fought Helenius, the same version of Helenius that AJ fought, but last night, I think Dubois flattens him in 3 rounds, maybe. Yeah. And I'm not trying to say that Dubois is a better fighter than Anthony Joshua. I think Anthony Joshua is dealing with some stuff now, which is making the fights very difficult for him. And I'm not entirely sure if he has the time to overcome those problems, those demons that he's dealing with. Joe says, watch my video, very good. Thanks, Joe. I appreciate it. And it was good to see that a lot of people were seeing sense, because I don't get me wrong, I had plenty of people who were just outraged. They're just cussing me in the comments, saying that I should stop watching boxing because I clearly don't know what I'm looking at. Exactly what I had 2 weeks ago when I was giving my take on Anthony Joshua's performance, which the channel seems to be getting some traction now. You know you've made it when you've got trolls and NPCs in your comments. But ultimately, like, I don't care. If you disagree with me, fair enough. But just as you say, Joe, don't bring your outrage, bring your logic, bring your reason, bring your evidence. Like, there was a couple of guys in that video I did last night, and they're like, great analysis, but I disagree for XYZ reason. I can entertain that, because it's not just, oh, Outmatch says something that I disagree with, autistic screeching. That doesn't do anything. That doesn't further any understanding. And so that's why with those people, I use dummy comments for them, because they're idiots. Yeah, I want to say that the vast majority of people see it from my perspective, and I don't want to say, oh yeah, look, I've got my cult following in my echo chamber, but it seems to be, at least from what I've seen, people in my comments surrounding my video, people see it the same way I do. I believe Hatman called it a low blow as well. Chris, I want to say, was playing devil's advocate, but leaned more towards a low blow in his video. G-Man, I think he said borderline, so he was a bit more lenient and said that it was a decent shot by Dubois. So I'm just basing it based off of what I saw, plain and simple. JD wants me to bait out the username of that NPC. I'm not going to, because like the Gypsy King, he doesn't deserve any airtime. And to be honest, he's the kind of person like nobody's going to remember his name anyway. He is a skid mark in the YouTube boxing fraternity and society as a whole. But JD, if you really want to see it, you can just you can go into the comment section of the video. He's popped up on a couple of them as well. And you know what? Just to address the trolls, I actually enjoy the trolls in my videos, as crazy as that sounds, because firstly, you bump up the views, the watch hours, and thus the revenue, therefore lining my pockets, which is greatly appreciated. But a lot of the times, these people, they don't realize how foolish they really are, because as Joe said, they seem to take in one point, usually one sentence, or not even a sentence, just a couple of words, and they take it out of context, completely disregard your objectivity and your presentation of both sides of the argument, and they run away with this point and make themselves look like such deranged fools in the comment section. That actually serves as some entertainment for the rest of the people who scroll through the comments. There's one other donut as well, who basically said he didn't think that my prediction was correct. Like, are you stupid? Are you really that retarded? I predicted that Usyk would win in round 9 or 10. Usyk then wins in round 9, but then my prediction is wrong. Like, guys, make it make sense. Please help me understand this. And these are the kind of people that get in the comment section. So I can't help but laugh at them. Yeah. Yeah, I could go on all day because I find it entertaining, to be honest. I do laugh at myself. Get a video that blows up a little bit, go through the comments, see all the silly bots short circuiting. It is mildly amusing. JD asks, "What's my ethnicity?" Well, I'm going to bounce this question back at you, JD. I'm going to ask you, well, just going off my voice, what do you think my ethnicity is? And maybe I'll confirm or deny. Um, oh, read that comment. JD, as much as I want Fury versus Usyk, when Dubois was making his ring walk, I was rooting for him. Fair enough. Um, yeah, like if you want a certain fighter to win, hey, that's your prerogative. I try and avoid. I don't even try really. Like after a while, or maybe it's just my personality, but I'm not the kind of person who I don't feel any kind of relation to fighters because boxing is just a sport. Like it's a great sport. I love it 100%. But when you've been in boxing and you've been around people in boxing, you start to realize like these people aren't special in the sense that they deserve something that you wouldn't give to any other person. Um, like for example, there are a lot of uh, high level boxers in and around where I work, and they're just regular people. They wake up, they have a shower, and an shit just like the rest of us. And it's just like you're just a guy. Like I don't feel like any sense of patriotism or nationalism or anything like that. You know, because they're just people. Um, and I sound like a real misery gut, but I just want to see high quality fights first and foremost. Just want to see the best fight the best. That's like my priority. And whoever wins wins. Like I have no problem getting a prediction wrong, anything like that. Uh, Robbie Sukmana says no respect to Usyk. What, you're not giving him any respect, or people not giving him any respect? Uh, yeah. Um, Hamed fought a kid who couldn't throw a punch and a corner that couldn't. Yeah, exactly. Like the corner had to throw in two towels because they missed the first one. Um, I expected very little from that fight, but even that was pretty shocking. So hopefully they get Hamed's son, or I guess you could just call him Hamed, um, a better opponent, and Laurel on a card elsewhere. Did I hear about the wrestler Bray Wyatt that sadly passed away? Yeah, I saw some tweets about that. I don't know who he is though. I didn't pay attention. Um, People pass away all the time, It's just nothing lasts forever, unfortunately. But I know people are speculating why he died. But as I said, I don't know anything about him. Spacey said it may have actually hit the cup. I don't know. Um, Based on what I saw, I don't think it did. I think it was higher than the cup, but just because it doesn't hit the like, people think that it's only a low blow if it hits the cup. That's false. Doesn't work like that. Um, and I don't. But even then, I don't think it did. Personally, not based on what I saw. JD's actually had his nose broken by one punch in in some situation in the street. Didn't even hurt, but it was leaking for like 10 minutes. That's unfortunate. Thankfully, I've never broken my nose, so uh, I can't relate. However, I've been headbutted in the nose numerous times, both in the street and in boxing, and yeah, wasn't pleasant. And I haven't got a small nose, but I've got like a longish, bony nose, and I'm surprised that didn't break, to be honest, and ruin my devilishly handsome good looks. Um, yeah, very painful. Make your eyes water straight away. Some people have really sensitive noses as well. Thankfully, I never did. Like, wasn't really someone for nosebleeds, so I could take like a hefty impact and it wouldn't be too bad. But yeah, it's not pleasant at all. Like getting hit upside the head, not too bad, but getting hit in the nose And the eye, that's just, nah, I'd rather not. Oh, we've got Mike. It's good to have you here, buddy. He says, "Afternoon, sir. Hope you're well. Is it just me, or are you also sick of these controversies?" Tell me about it. It's exhausting. I like the views, though. I'll say that. I was thoroughly entertained last night, and it's all about this bile about punching the bladder. Yeah, it is frustrating. Like ultimately, I have my view on it, which I've made clear in this live stream in the previous video. But it is a shame that we can't just have fights, clean fights anymore. There's always some controversy. Like we have enough controversy outside of the ring, and now we have some in it. And I guess boxing is fighting, and fighting's chaotic, and it comes with the territory probably. But yeah, it's unfortunate because it kind of does take away from the entertainment or the appreciation of it. Because afterwards, we're not just talking about where either man goes next and being able to pick the fight apart and appreciate the performances. We're here debating about whether a punch was legal or not, which is a shame, and it leaves it on a bit of a sour note. JD, me and that guy shed a lot of blood 2 days prior. I stomped him. Jesus. All right. Bit of a savage then, aren't you? Um, I don't know if I feel like if I read that all out, I might get demonetized. But please don't tell me that this was a mate of yours and this is just part of your friendship. JD asked if I got in many tear-ups as a youngster. Yeah, I had my fair few, both inside and outside of boxing. Yeah, growing up as a young man, this happens. I'd say I'm typically more suspicious of young kids, young boys and men who come up to me and they've never had any kind of confrontation before. I'm generally a bit like, that's a bit sus, especially these days. Like I work with young kids and like teenagers and stuff, young adults. And a lot of them these days, they haven't had any kind of physical altercation and they're so soft, like like unbelievably. Like don't get me wrong, compared to my forefathers, I'm probably, like a not very tough at all, relatively speaking. But then the gap between, say, someone my age and someone 10 years younger than me, the gap is massive. Like kids these days really are. I want to say a word, but every time I go to say a word, I'm just like, no, I'm just going to get demonetized. But they're not very tough at all. They are pussycats, which is a shame because they're losing the masculine edge. Philip asks, "What has been Usyk's hardest fight in his career?" I'd say all around probably the Bradis fight because that was relatively close decision. Bradis landed a lot of clean offense on him, but I don't think Bradis's offense that landed was as damaging as the offense that Chisora landed or AJ landed or even Dubois. So it's tough to say, but in terms of, I'd say that the fight where Usyk had to bite down on his gum shield and really take a fight by the scruff of the neck, probably the Bradis fight, in my opinion. Can you hear out people that say let all fighters juice, as there's inconsistencies with fighters that pop dirty? It's a very, I don't like this debate. I don't like talking about performance enhancers and stuff like that because there are so many like moral implications, medical implications. Because if you say, "Oh, just let all fighters juice," you're not only presenting them a greater risk in the ring when they fight each other, it's just by virtue of taking these substances can kill them. And it just opens up a whole can of worms. I'd say for as long as we can encourage a clean fight, we should do so. And I know that's probably a bit of a utopian view and it's not very, very realistic, but in all honesty, I just haven't settled on a real realistic, balanced view on it. So I'd say just encourage clean boxing. But yeah, it is annoying that there are inconsistencies. If a fighter is above a certain bracket in terms of the money they generate or the accolades they have, um, usually the money, they will tend to get away with it. As frustrating as it is. Okay, so to answer my question, JD thinks I'm a black guy. Fair enough. Um, am I black? Let me just have a look. Not right now. Been in the UK for too long. James Clifford, I think Carl Frampton got a bit too excited on the commentary, but Carl Froch got it right by stating that was 100% a low blow, as it was below the navel. Usyk performed well and got the job done. Yeah, I tend to agree with that. I like Carl Frampton. He's one of the better commentators, I feel. I enjoy his take. I feel that whenever I've watched him, he's typically been quite balanced. But yeah, he was way too excited last night. I don't know, maybe it was a bit past his bedtime or something, or he had a couple too many sugars in his tea. I don't know, but I disagreed with it. And someone like Frank Warren, who's Dubois' promoter, Don Charles, his trainer, they're gonna say stuff like that. But then on the commentary, Carl Frampton, I was like, nah, man, you're way off. I haven't really seen many other fighters take. I saw last night Nick Blackwell. He put on his Twitter, he's like, robbed in capital letters. Dubois was robbed. I'm thinking, mate, give your head a shake. You sure? All right, JD. Very interesting mix. Quarter English, 3/8 Jamaican, quarter Belgian, and 1/8 French. Does that make mathematical sense? I'm not sure, but yeah. Some which country are you closer? Well, more yeah. Which country or culture are you more immersed in? Because are you in the UK? I think you said you in the Midlands, JD. I can't remember. Not that I'm trying to bait you out on this live stream. Philip says, "What did you make of Jalalov and Anderson's performances last night?" Well, I saw the entirety of Jalalov's fight because it lasted a few seconds. To be expected, like he had to do that. It was his pro debut on Top Rank, um, and he was in against a 6'7" Nigerian guy nicknamed Godzilla. Like that is a car crash waiting to happen. Firstly, Nigeria not really known for quality heavyweight boxers, and on top of that, you can just sometimes tell by a guy's nickname that he's going to be terrible, and I think that's what we saw last night. Jalalov, I wasn't sold on him for a while, but I've been watching his fights. I'm like, I can start to see how this guy has a future. And speaking of Anderson, right now, I wouldn't be surprised if that fight got made next, Jalalov versus Anderson, if Anderson got smoked by Jalalov, because Jalalov's still very amateurish, but he's consistent. Whereas Anderson, I want to say, is a bit more technically diverse, but he's like, there's a laziness with Anderson. There's a few too many holes there that I think need to be tightened up. And I saw highlights of his performance. Rudenko's a tough guy, been around the block. So Anderson really did what he was supposed to. But I only saw highlights, so I can't really go into the ins and outs. But I think it was probably a serviceable performance based on what I saw. He made a concerted effort early on to go to the body. And Rudenko's a tough guy. I think he's been stopped like once out of 6 losses or something like that. So fighters on the come up, they're going to have better performances, going to have worse performances. What concerns me the most about Anderson though is his mindset, because I did a video after his last fight, or maybe just before, but around the time of his last fight when he fought Charles Martin, and I said the title of the video was "How will Gen Z, Zoomers, young people fare in boxing?" Because there's like this generation has so many mental problems. If it's not a problem, it's a deficiency. Like stuff's missing. Like you've got this big, young, talented fighter in Jared Anderson, and he's like crying his eyes out, like actually bawling in that little piece that he did with Roy Jones. And it's like, why? What's I mean, I'm not trying to poke fun or anything. I'm just asking the question because I find it quite alarming that so many young fighters, they're just lost. Like, and it's not all of them. Like there are young fighters that clearly can keep it together. But if you look at Jared Anderson, you look at Ryan Garcia, these guys are just they're a bit soft, And I say that relatively speaking. I'm not comparing myself to them. Excuse me. Sorry, I just had to sneeze again. People kind of get up in arms when I say things like this. Oh, outmatch. Why don't you get back in the boxing ring then? Blah, 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 blah. I'm not comparing myself to the likes of Jared Anderson, you donut. I'm comparing Jared Anderson to his peers, the guys that he's potentially going to fight. And a lot of them are older than him. Look at the top guys at heavyweight who he may very well fight in the next couple of years. Yeah, Joshua had a little bit of a meltdown. But do you know, like, I highlighted it in a recent video. I was very lenient on Joshua for his outbursts after the Usyk rematch because I understood why he reacted like that. Because he's been under immense amount of pressure for years and always bottled it up. Just kept it in, kept it in, kept it in. Never truly expressed himself until after that fight. And so I was like, you know what? After all the criticism, be it valid or invalid, warranted or unwarranted, that AJ has had to take on from people like myself, I can understand why it finally get to him. But Jared Anderson's done not very much in his career so far. Hasn't, at least as an outsider looking in, hasn't had to endure all that much. Hasn't had to deal with that much pressure relative to someone like AJ, who's been selling out arenas in front of 70, 80, 90,000 people, or stadiums rather. But Anderson's crying, talking about he can't take the pressure and, oh, why is it me? Why do I have to take the pressure? Bro, didn't you choose to box? If you can't take the pressure, just do something else. I just find it really like perplexing and puzzling. Not that I don't want to sound like a douchebag or anything, as Americans say, but that's just how I feel. Like I find it very alarming. Joe Stunner says Hamed's opponent was 17. Jeez, I didn't know that. I didn't realize. I mean, he looked young, but I didn't think 17. A 1-2 record. Whoever sanctioned it. Oh man, that is bad. Like, and you could see based on who was involved that he really was only on that card because of who his dad was. His dad, a legend. Um, Yemeni fighter, probably got Arabic connections. Usyk's now represented by Skill Challenge, which was a Saudi Arabian based company. So you can see the connections that, oh, yeah, you're a legend in the Arabic community and British boxing. Yeah, chuck him on, get him chief support. Nah, scandalous. JD, I never got nosebleeds prior to my broken nose, but sometimes get very mild nosebleed out my left nostril. Thankfully, my nose is the same. That's the important thing, you know. Just impress the girls with your looks. Once they settle down, they'll accept the nosebleeds when they come. Don't fight my mates. Okay, fair enough. All right, you're giving us the whole story. Hey, man, schoolyard beef. That's all it is. Okay, boomerang. If Ward versus Kovalev was not a low blow, the shot of Dubois was not a low blow. It's difficult to compare because you're comparing different fighters, different refs. A fighter may wear the different style of trunks differently, but yeah, Kovalev, Ward Kovalev 2, one of the worst stoppages I've ever seen, and one of the dirtiest fights I've ever seen live. Yeah, some shameless low blows from Andre Ward. And Dubois, I thought it was a low blow, but I don't think it was shameless cheating like what Ward was doing in that fight. Jeez. Joe Stunner says the modern world makes people emotionally soft. Society used to stress thought over emotion, the former being the way to explore and control the latter. That seems to have gone. Yeah, that's you know the kind of sociology that boxing inevitably leads to is very interesting. But that's why I did that video, because I wanted to ask the question: what is the next generation going to look like? Because some people, and they have some, I think they have a point here where they assume that boxing will always attract a certain type of person in society, and I understand that, but I think it's you're starting to see the new generation in boxing now, and they're just a bit different, you know. Like even in the states, there's like a certain, I want to say, American prospect stereotype whereby they're more concerned with coming across as being successful and flossing on Instagram and stuff, rather than actually dedicating themselves to a craft of boxing and becoming the best they can possibly be. Um, yeah, just time will tell. Like the proof is in the pudding, but I think generally it's kind of clear to see that people these days, like generations, just get softer and softer. Um, and that's just it's got a trickle down effect into other areas of life, sport and whatnot. We got G Man in the house. How you doing, G? I saw your video. Have you what's your what's your take on this? Low blow or not? I think it's a low blow. Um, but hey, I want to hear you. I want to hear your side. Uh, uh, Philip says the guy that sang Usyk out looked like Gareth A. Davis. Yeah, yeah, a little bit of a Ukrainian gypsy Gareth A. Davis. That is Vasily Jadan, in case you're wondering. I believe that's his name, going off from memory. Um, yeah, good singer. He's got a good set of pipes on him, hasn't he? JD says, call me insensitive, but I find it hard to sympathize with wealthy sports stars that come from good family and say they have depression and don't. Uh, I think I know who you're alluding to. Yeah, it's tricky because you don't know what's going on behind closed doors, but at the same time, these people have a lot of money, a lot of fame, a lot of success, but then there's a counter argument of just because you have those things doesn't really mean you're going to be happy. So, hey, true happiness comes from within, and whether your lifestyle is aligned with what you want in life. Um, the image show clearly it was a clean shot. I disagree. I yeah, I wholeheartedly disagree. I think if you look at the image, you can quite clearly see where the waistband is, and you can see what proportion of the glove lands on the waistband. None of it lands on the skin, so it is entirely waistband and below. But then if you look at where the waistband is relative to Usyk's navel throughout the course of the fight, for me it's low. For me it's low, and I'm not trying to say that Daniel Dubois intentionally threw a low shot, but I think based on what I saw, it was low, and the referee's call was right. Uh, G-Man says, borderline for me, mate. Personally, I would have called it a knockdown, but I'm not screaming robbery. Okay. Yeah, what I want to present then is, because I've seen a lot of people, they say, um, okay, it was borderline. That's the term they use. If something's borderline, does that mean what? It's a bit of a grey area. It's like 50-50. And then therefore, if the shot is borderline, what do you think that the referee's call should be? If it's deemed borderline, do they carry on? Do they have a break? Do they do something in between where they separate? I don't know, but I want to kind of hear people out because I've yet to see a compelling argument as it being a legal shot. Um, JD says Fury, Ryan Garcia, Jamel Charlo, all good examples. Well, Ryan Garcia is a lot younger than the other two, but yeah, like Fury, he's a bit tapped in the head. He's a funny character. He's up and down. Jamel Charlo, I think he's just really competitive. Um, but that he cried after he lost to Tony Harrison, didn't he? That was a little bit strange, but yeah, I don't know. People deal with it differently ultimately. Jamal. Uh, well, that's the thing. Both the twins are say, uh, both the twins. Yeah, the Charlo twins. They're both very emotional. Like they're quite volatile characters. I think Jamel's probably a bit more cool-headed, but even then, he can be a bit all over the shop. And then Ryan Garcia is he's a young buck, isn't he? He's part of this new generation of softies. Look, credit to him though. He still goes in the ring and tries to do the business, but relative to the fighters of yesteryear, Kingdale Clark, it was perfectly legitimate punch. If it's worth anything, many pro boxers are in support of it being legitimate. Oh yeah, I hear that. Okay, a lot of fighters, former fighters, people do commentary, they say it was a legit punch, but I'm not going to deviate from what I see in front of me. What I saw, and I've seen the slow mo so many bloody times that I'm kind of sick of looking at it now. I really just want to move on from this whole thing. Um, but based on what I see, that's not. It wasn't a legit punch because Usyk's trunks weren't that high, and therefore the punch was likely below the navel when you try and line everything up. And if it's below the navel, yeah, it may not have hit him in the nuts like he maybe claimed, but it's below the navel. It's in the bladder. That's not a scoring shot, and it's a debilitating shot as well. So I know now people want to kind of debate, oh, what's the target area? To be honest, I think what G-Man said about the referee needing, like, it should be a necessity that the referee clearly defines before a fight, because it usually happens. Valid target, this is borderline, this is low. It doesn't take 2 seconds. And so, um, you know, whether you're calling it a low blow, whether you're calling it a valid shot, whether you're saying it's borderline, I think ultimately we can agree that to present this, to prevent this problem in the future, at the beginning of the fight, both fighters are standing there before their punches, before their trunks have been adjusted or anything. Just point it out on camera so we can see the evidence and make a judgment from there. And obviously make use of replays during the fight itself, should anything happen. But yeah, that won't take away any time. It's no additional effort, but it'll clear things up. But that being said, that aside, what I saw was a low blow. Philip asks, I don't think there needs to be a rematch, do you? No, not really. This controversy aside, it was a good fight. It was a competitive fight. And I think some people's perspective is going to be a bit different. Like, a lot of people didn't give Dubois a chance going into this fight. But I did. I know Hatman did. I can't remember the other guys, but I openly said, like, when this fight was first announced, I didn't think it'd be close. However, the closer it got, it's like, this is going to be a rough fight for Usyk, because Dubois, probably not prone to overthinking the way AJ is. He might even hit harder than AJ. He might be more willing to stick it on Usyk, and he's closer to Usyk in height. So even though Usyk can more easily reach him, Dubois is at a similar level to him, so he can potentially keep up a bit more. And I think that's what happened. But then I think people's perception of, oh, Dubois is going to go in there and he's going to get blown away. They're then seeing him land this shot and they're like, oh, that was Dubois' chance to win and defy the odds and become world champion. So I think people are jumping the gun, a bit too emotional. They've got to chill out and assess it a bit more critically. But no, I don't think there needs to be a rematch. I don't know what's going to happen next, to be honest. Because, yeah, Frank Warren and Don Charles, they're probably going to lobby for a rematch. But what does Daniel Dubois want? I wasn't particularly convinced by him at the end of the fight in a post-fight interview. He was like, oh, I was robbed. Everyone can see I was robbed. He didn't sound like he had much conviction in his voice. And I know he's got very strange demeanor, but I didn't buy that. I don't think he wants to get back in there. I think Dubois is someone who's mentally quite vulnerable. And he probably scars mentally quite easily. Whereas someone like Dylan White, for the most part, like, he got sparked out by Povetkin. He was like, no, let's run it back. Let's go straight away. We saw what happened when he got back in the ring with Povetkin. Mark says Daniel Dubois had his eyes closed the whole setup and shot. Maybe Dubois got some strange habits in the ring. Ryan Garcia is still 7 years older than me, and I think I couldn't be depressed if I had millions in the bank and had loads of female attention. It's difficult to say. Like, you got to walk a mile in someone's shoes. Crimson Jackal, on the other hand, many pros have called it low. Yeah, apparently Carl Froch did. I'm not aware of him having any bias either way. So just for every person who's calling it a legitimate shot and saying that Usyk should have been knocked down or it should have been countered knocked down, there's another person that says no, it was a low blow. So just make up your own mind. Oh gosh, JD's asking about Top Boy. I'll get to that in a second. Mark says, I thought bladder 2. They told that in the locker room. They said yesterday, the ref pointing it out. Maybe. I think it's better to do it on camera, though, before the fight starts. Ryan Garcia is a good-looking dude, but is boxing for him? Is he too much of a pretty boy, if you like? Yeah, probably. Because the thing is, it's like, sometimes it can be a bit more specific in a sense. People's like, oh, you're either in boxing or you're not. And it's not like that. Like, some guys are willing to be in boxing at a certain level, but when they reach the highest level, elite level, be it as an amateur or a pro, they freeze and they can't hack it there. So they might be willing to fight as a contender and like knock out a couple of people, but they freeze on the big stage. So Ryan Garcia, he might enjoy boxing at the level of, being a prospect where he's having some easier touches. But then when he's in 50-50 fights, that's when it falls apart. So it's a case-by-case thing, really. And the proof's in the pudding. I don't see Ryan Garcia becoming a world champion. I don't really see him boxing for that much longer, as crazy as that sounds. Because I think he enjoyed his rise where he was really popular and he was looking fantastic, knocking out former champions and stuff like that and contenders. But when he's got going against another hot prospect or former champion like Gervonta Davis or someone else, if he gets in the ring with him, that's when he reaches his limit. Whereas those guys, they're serious. Like, they're willing to do a lot more than he is. And here we are. JD's asking about Top Boy. Oh dear, oh dear. I should really skip over this because it's not a boxing question. But hey, it's no skin off my nose, I guess. Top Boy, seasons 1 and 2 that originally aired on Channel 4 in the UK, I thought were very good. Very good pieces of work, enjoyable series. And I'm not a series guy, but the very condensed nature of them, 2 seasons, 4 episodes apiece, very authentic, very gritty, very true to life. Because if you're from an area like East London, or maybe another city like Manchester, Liverpool, you understand that urban life can be quite dramatic. I want to say there is certain things happen in these kind of urban areas, and Top Boy, I feel, did a good job of capturing that kind of thing, what the kind of criminal underworld is like. However, ever since Drake and Netflix got their hands on Top Boy, it has been an absolute circus. It has been terrible, like objectively bad. And I believe there are 4 seasons now. The 2 from Channel 4, the 2 from Netflix, and then the third Netflix one is coming out in a week and a half. In my opinion, season 2, like the Channel 4 season 2, I rate that very highly. 8, 9 out of 10. I thought it was brilliant. Watched it several times. Netflix, I struggle to give it more than a 3. I think the Netflix version is terrible. I might still watch the next one just because the trailer I feel makes it look okay. That being said, I don't have particularly high hopes, and I probably will end up laughing at it. Like that last season that released last year, the fourth season, I thought was dreadful. I thought it was an absolute joke. Like it was dumb. It was stupid. It was irritating. Like just filled with nonsense. But hey, I'm a sucker for punishment, so maybe I'll tune into the next one. But yeah, that's my opinion on Top Boy. David Petro Music. The media treatment of Usyk has been disgusting. Give the man his credit. It was Usyk's best performance at heavyweight so far, and he deserves the praise. And instead, his shine has been stolen once again. Well, this is what happens in controversy. Like happens to every fighter. So I'm not gonna sit here and say, "Oh, I feel so sorry for Usyk," because as much he's enjoyed a fair amount of credit recently, particularly because the way he conducted himself and his willingness to fight Tyson Fury. That being said, I don't think it's his fault in the sense that he got hit with what I deem to be a low blow, which I believe genuinely hurt him. Firstly, like talking from experience, I've been hit in the bladder myself. Thankfully, not by someone as big as Daniel Dubois, and it hurts. And on top of that, just the way Usyk was reacting, in my opinion, he has to be a bloody good actor if that was staged and put on. I think it did hurt him. The referee made a call. Usyk took 3-4 minutes out of a maximum of 5 minutes, got the job done. I don't think it was a great performance by Usyk. I think that being said, I did expect this kind of performance, but I think we've seen the best of him. I think it's going to be downhill from now. And it's going to be tough, especially if he's having to fight the likes of Filip Hrgovic, Zhilei Zhang, or Joe Joyce. We probably will see Alexander Usyk lose before he fights Tyson Fury, assuming that he fights those guys. But yeah, it is frustrating because controversy just takes away from the enjoyment of the sport as a whole. Like, forget about credit. Kingdale Clark says, I think Usyk has some mental health difficulty. I don't mean to be cruel, do you? When the referee was talking to him, it seemed like Dubois wasn't great following advice. I don't think he has mental health problems. I think he just has a certain psychological makeup that doesn't lend itself well to dealing with adversity. It's just that I don't think it's much deeper than that. I just think some guys are in it to win it, like they're hardcore. Whereas I don't think Dubois is. He'll get stuck in to a certain extent, and then if you stick it on him some more, then the wheels come off a little bit. If he was more outgoing about that legal shot, might have had an impact. Okay. Straight out of Boscombe. I think we can all agree it's been the best heavyweight fight we've seen. Yeah, it's decent. I'm not sure if it's the best heavyweight fight, but a good watch, a compelling watch. Crawford going up to 168 to fight Canelo should never happen. That's like Sonny Edwards versus Tank. Oh dear. Hey, time will tell. Time will tell. I haven't really thought about that one too much, but maybe towards the end of their careers, if Crawford really wants to push the boat out, it'd be strange, but boxing's a strange sport. Dubois can come again, but it was so important for all of us that want this era of heavyweight boxing to play out as it should, that Usyk retain the belts. Yeah, does anyone really want to see Dubois versus Fury? I certainly don't. Not right now, anyway, because Dubois. I feel like Dubois might still have some growth left and some potential to reach, but we'll have to see. JD, I'm going to try and steer away from the political questions. Yes, because it might shut down the channel, but also because I don't really focus on stuff like that. So I'm not really in a position to give proper informed opinion. JD said, I hear what you're saying. The first two seasons were probably better. Maybe I have lower standards of filmography than you, but I still like drama. Yeah, look, there were points where, and I know this is not boxing, but it's TV, so I guess it's somewhat tame. Um, there were like shocking moments that I felt were kind of capturing the spirit of the original series, but like the season 2 on Netflix was terrible. Like, was it 8 or 10 episodes, something like that, one of the two, and so many of the plot lines just went nowhere, absolutely nowhere. There are so many characters who can't act, like the acting is bad. The characters have poor writing, um, and there are a lot of it's a lot of nonsense, like silly agendas, like social engineering stuff that's shoehorned in there, and I don't appreciate that. A lot of what Netflix put forth is rubbish, like it's vile, toxic trash, and Top Boy slowly but surely is going down that route. I pretty much, and it sounds silly, but I pretty much just watch Top Boy to see Kano act because I like his acting. I think uh, Kano, Kane Robinson, for those who don't know, plays Sully in Top Boy. I think he's a fantastic actor. I think that character is fairly well written, and I pretty much just tune in to see his story arc and where it goes. 10 minutes, Yimmy. You're no Yimmy. Come on, mate. 10 minutes. 10 minutes. I mean, that's a bit of a stretch. A lot of like, no. Look, see, fighters. I think this is one thing that people are missing. There have been instances where fighters have been hit with body shots, and they are awarded 5 minutes, not body shots, low shots, like illegal shots below the belt, and they're awarded 5 minutes to recover. A lot of fighters don't accept it for whatever reason. A lot of times because the body shot isn't that bad, or the legal punch isn't that bad that they take. But look at that shot that Dubois landed. Look at that the velocity and the force of that shot. I don't think Usyk was acting. And then, look, I'm not trying to back up Usyk. Yeah, I had a prediction that he'd win, and I got it spot on. But ultimately, Usyk's just another guy. Like, I don't know him. I don't have any connection to him. I admire what he does. You know, he's someone who's willing to get in there and fight anyone, anywhere. But ultimately, I'm just going to react to what I see in front of me. And he made use of the 5 minute time that he was awarded. A lot of boxers don't get that luxury, maybe because the ref in that fight doesn't call it a low blow, or because they don't want to make use of the 5 minutes because the opponent also gets time to recover. You know, sometimes it's, how can I say, like people use low blows as a reason, even if they're borderline, because they know their opponent's going to react and fold over. The referee's going to say, "Oh, you can have 5 minutes." There's going to be a break in the action, and the opponent who threw that punch low can get a break. I'm not saying that that's Daniel Dubois' intention. Only he knows that. But what I'm saying is, I think Usyk just worked with what was presented to him. That being said, I understand what you're trying to say about sometimes Usyk does get hit with perfectly fine body shots and he doesn't react that well. And he will look at the referee. And I don't like that. I think that is a little bit of a red flag because it shows there is some physical and mental vulnerability. But then it's like certain fighters, they just react differently to roughhouse tactics and that kind of thing. I don't know. Uh, Philip says, I think now a lot of fighters will be going through his body. Yeah, yeah, definitely. I'd be surprised if they don't. All right, I'm going to get to these last few comments and call it time because then we're going for an hour and a half. And believe it or not, I do have a life outside of YouTube, so I'll let you guys get on with your weekend. Dubois seems like a big kid, a shy, gentle soul, or perhaps someone who's on the spectrum. Not ragging on the guy, just yeah. I've made the same observation as well. I've been in Dubois' presence quite a few times, like just out in public, um, and like me and him, we had like there was this time in like early 2020, actually in the lead up to the uh, the Joyce fight because that was initially scheduled for April 2020. I used to bump into Dubois at the train station when I was on my way to uni, and yeah, he'd just be sitting there, kind of like staring into space, and you can just see by the expression, like there's nothing going on up there. Yeah, very. Yeah, he's like a big kid, and I feel for Dubois because he does kind of give me that vibe of he's an innocent guy, like he's a pure-hearted guy. He's probably not someone who's scheming or conniving or selfish. He strikes me as someone who's just very simple, just likes his boxing, likes to box, likes to talk about boxing, think about boxing. So I'm not going to rag on him. I think he probably is on the spectrum as well. Um, and look, power to him, man, because me and Dubois are a similar age. And he had a shot at achieving his dream last night. Whereas, look at me, I'm doing silly little live stream for an hour and a half in front of a dozen and a half people. So, that's credit to him, power to him. But in a boxing sense, I'm not gonna pussyfoot around the criticism and stuff like that. I think people seem to think Usyk has slowed down, but it looks like he's choosing his shots more and sitting down on. Um, I think it's a stylistic thing. Bigger heavyweights are probably easier for him to move around, like maneuver around, and look quicker against. Whereas Dubois, even though he's bigger in terms of mass, not so much in terms of height, so the dynamics a bit different. And Usyk probably isn't going to enjoy that same small man advantage as he would over someone like Joshua. Um, I wouldn't say Dubois is a bully. I'd just say he's someone who he can only take so much in terms of return fire. And JD, last but not least. Remember that scene where Lauren's partner said, "Oh, don't remind me. Don't remind me." It's silly Tony Bellew making his appearance in Top Boy season 2. It's rubbish, rubbish. All right, enjoy. Oh, nothing wrong with running a modest YouTube channel. Well, yeah, I say that because obviously I was once a budding young boxer with dreams of becoming a world champion myself, and I couldn't hack it. I dropped out years ago and pursued boxing through coaching and now this channel. Whereas Dubois, yeah, he might not have the heart for battle, but at least he's getting close, and that deserves credit. And he's willing to do what one. Actually, I'm not going to say his name. Let's not give him airtime. But let's just say Dubois was willing to do something that a certain world champion isn't. So, hey, Dubois, even in defeat, you did well. All right. Enjoy the rest of your weekend, people. I'm going to call it time there. Give my vocal cords a rest for the rest of the day. Yeah, enjoy your bank holiday weekend, folks, and I'll catch you on the next one. Hope you enjoyed the weekend's action. Trying to get too bogged down in the controversy, and we move on to the next one because we have Smith versus Eubank rematch next weekend, I believe. Yeah, so I guess I'll see you in the lead up to that one, folks. Take it easy, and I'll speak to you soon.